So a lot has happened regarding Donald Trump, the different lawsuits coming out against him, this bombshell information coming out about the ballots in Fulton County, Georgia. We're going to get into all of the big stories today. To help me do that, I have a special guest, Drew Allen. Drew, thank you so much for being here today.
So happy to be with you.
So just some background. Drew is in publishing. He is an author. He is also part of the reason that I get so many of these incredible guests on. And so the first question that I wanted to jump into with you is a full forensic audit of Fulton County, Georgia has been finished. And the outcome is they double counted over 3,000 votes in just that one county. But I think the big bombshell that really lit the internet on fire was 380,761 digital ballot images from Election Day are missing. So either they never existed, they destroyed these images so that people couldn't see the actual ballots, signatures, who the people actually voted for. What do you make of this? And then second, why is Trump still on trial with homewrecker Fani Willis in light of these new details?
Yeah, I mean, well, the reason this is going on is because we have a totally corrupt judiciary system brought to you by the Democrat Party and the Biden administration in particular. I mean, it's weaponized justice. Everyone said it, in different ways, but at the end of the day, yes, it's banana republic tactics. And what's so troubling too is, it takes a very long time to build a reputation for an individual, for a country, for anything. And it takes a devotion to excellence. And it takes one or two mistakes to bring that reputation, sterling reputation, crashing to the ground. That's why people used to have duels over their reputation, for example. That's how serious they took it. And so, yes, there's all of the specifics about just how bad this is in terms of corruption of the justice system itself, but it also tarnishes the reputation of the United States of America, of blind justice. And it's going to take a long time to build back that credibility. In terms of what's going on in Fulton County, I mean, what this goes to show, I mean, I think at the essence, a lot of people are sitting here now, and we were told when credible allegations were made after the 2020 election. I mean, we knew at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta that they lied about the fact that there had been some big leak, and it turned out to be a leaky urinal. And we had the actual video of the election watchers being dismissed late at night, being told we're done counting. And then nobody left. The counter stayed there. They pulled out the ballots, troves of ballots, and continued working through the night. And we saw that with our own eyes, and we understood what was going on, but we were gaslit and told that this couldn't happen. This was the, freest and fairest election. And now we're finding out that actually, given the very small number of votes total, when you look at these swing states and these counties that actually, given the electoral college system that handed this election to Joe Biden, you're now realizing that perhaps this was not a fair election, as many have been talking about, and people have been punished, their lives destroyed over this truth now that there was foul play in 2020. And if you think about as someone who loves America, right, you look at the unprecedented damage that has been done to this country in just less than 4 years. And none of it should have taken place if we had done due diligence in 2020 with the elections.
Yeah. I mean, it also came out that, close to 100,000 ballots in Pennsylvania were counted after Election Day. They were dated after Election Day or didn't have a date. Their court system now said none of those should have been counted. We then find out that the woman up in Wisconsin has been fired for printing and filling out and manipulating ballots. So, something is definitely fishy. I mean, for example, Trump's former attorney and friend, Rudy Giuliani, he's being sued for millions of dollars over these, we didn't stuff ballots through the machines in the middle of the night story. And yet you and I have seen the video. probably most people watching this have seen the video. And now there's a forensic audit that has absolutely confirmed with the election board that there was duplicate counting of ballots.
Well, look, intellectually, even at the gut, I think that what people are witnessing, of course, is if you actually did commit a crime and you were guilty, say, of stealing an election, what would you need to do to prevent people from investigating? You would have to take lawfare to the next level. You would have to do everything in your power to make sure that you bludgeoned anybody who would even think about drawing attention to what you did, to make sure that people self-censored as well, so that nobody talked about this so you could get away with it. And what's amazing is it's almost an admission of guilt, the Democrat Party's actions now, in terms of them going in where Trump, for example, is going into these different states and they're suing and saying, hey, you cannot count mail-in ballots after, you cannot actually bring in more mail-in ballots after Election Day. Okay, they have to be in there by, which is not controversial at all. But you have Democrats going in and countersuing and trying to ensure that even after Election Day, mail-in ballots can be brought in. So this is how they won the 2020 election. And it's so overt and so obvious. And I just hope that the American people, given what we've experienced and our experience also in 2020, that people have more courage now, that they do not allow the Democrats to determine what we say and what the truth is, and to force us into this situation of self-censorship because of their, just insane response to these things. We can't allow them to do that ever again. And I think the American people are fed up. I mean, you look at this country, and I don't think there's any chance that Joe Biden can win fairly in 2024.
Yeah, I agree with you. It'll be interesting to see if Fani Willis is disqualified. The Trump case has now been set to the sidelines, and now we're doing another case for Fani Willis, a second case, saying, should she be disqualified because of sleeping with an employee, mismanagement of money, misuse of funds, use of the youth funds to buy herself nicer computers, inappropriate trips, speaking with the J6 committee, sending Nate Wade to have secret meetings with the White House. So like the Trump thing has totally been set to the side, and now she is the target. She's the one in the spotlight. It'll be really interesting to see if she's disqualified.
Well, yeah, it's an incredible turn of events, and just the Fani Willis situation alone is just powerful evidence on its own of how corrupt all of these prosecutions and politically motivated persecutions of Trump are. Because it turns out, if you look and were to break down every one of these cases, it's actually criminals who are the ones that are prosecuting Donald Trump. So in Fani Willis's case, she's a criminal. In the case of what's going on in New York right now with this criminal case, you have Michael Cohen, their star witness, who is a criminal himself, who's actually spent time in jail for lying. He's the big witness now they're relying upon. Stormy Daniels, she's a liar. She's lied, dozens of times about dozens of different things regarding this. E. Jean Carroll, same thing. So obviously, if you want to bring about a politically motivated prosecution and persecution, banana republic tactics, well, you need people with zero morality and virtue to carry those things out. And what you're finding is there is an abundance of amorality in the Democrat Party. Plenty of people that have no virtue whatsoever who are willing to do this. And it makes perfect sense. You have an Alvin Bragg who runs on getting Trump. Alvin Bragg, who, of course, said that Trump was interfering in the election in 2016. I don't know where he was with the suppression of the Hunter Biden laptop later. Trump-Russia collusion, that dossier. But this is fundamentally the problem with any culture, and what's responsible for the rot is, the Constitution you can't legislate morality. That has to come from other places in society. And we have failed as a nation at instilling virtue and these principles in Americans themselves. And so, of course, we haven't kept a watchful eye. And the people that have risen to the highest offices in the land, whether it's Joe Biden, who potentially molested his own daughter, she accused him of sexual misconduct. These are the people that are running the country. Criminals are running the country.
Yeah, that just some background on that really quickly. So there's this Ashley Biden diary it gets left behind, just like Hunter leaves his laptop. Like, what's with these Biden children leaving really important artifacts behind? But so she leaves it behind. This woman is now going to jail for keeping the diary, and then they publish it that Joe Biden was showering with his daughter and touching her inappropriately. And then just in the last couple days, she confirmed it with a judge. Yes, that's my diary, and I would like to get it back. I mean, you're right. It's like these are the people that are running the government.
Well, and it's just crazy, I mean, I resent the media, all media in so many ways, because everything's kind of knee jerk. For example, I wrote about this in my book in October, the Ashley Biden diary situation. I knew back then that it was authentic because a judge had already ruled that the personal property of the daughter of the president, had been stolen, which, I mean, I don't understand how it's not a crime either. This is insane too, by the way. But I knew that then, and nobody's talked about this. I mean, obviously, all the things and the links they'll go to create some semblance of amorality with Donald Trump. I mean, if Donald Trump's daughter had a diary entry that said that he showered inappropriately with her as a young girl, obviously we know what would happen with that story in the media. But this has been out there since last year, and it's just like radio. I mean, is that not a big story given what the media tends to focus on with Stormy Daniels and so on and so forth, that the president of the United States, his own daughter, accuses him in her diary of molesting her potentially? I mean, it's just so sickening. It shows how just brainwashed people are.
Yeah, well, gratefully for Biden, there aren't dozens and dozens of photos and videos of him sniffing young children. That would be really, really damning, right? Okay, speaking of Biden and Trump, Donald Trump, according to CNN, is dominating in 5 of the 6 swing states, and he's only off by 1 point in Michigan, which is probably why Biden is trying so purposefully to hold the Muslim vote in the state of Michigan, because that state's so important. But then I see states like Virginia are right now trending towards going to Donald Trump. That's 12 or 13 electoral votes. Do you think as we get closer to November that this energy and this momentum that Trump is building is only going to compound, or is there going to be an attempt to fizzle this thing out?
No, I don't think there's any putting the proverbial genie back in the bottle here. I mean, look, this sounds so simple. It is. The person that wins elections, generally speaking, is the one who is able to get the most votes. Obviously, we have an electoral college situation, but I bring that up because it's about voter turnout. And there is a big enthusiasm gap between those who would be interested in voting for Biden over Trump. And the Democrats are trying to make it about abortion and all these other issues to try and generate enthusiasm and a reason to vote. Because right now, nobody's going to show up to vote for Joe Biden, really. I mean, you've got your influencers out there who live in the DC bubble, and they'll spout the propaganda all day. But the reality is the average Democrat voter out there, they have no real interest or reason to go out and vote for Joe Biden. And the hatred towards Trump, I mean, it's kind of fizzled out. I mean, you can only keep people upset and angry about the same thing for so long. There is a natural cycle in the human psyche, psychology, physiology, where at some point, you've just got to take it down a notch. So those arguments they made in 2020, of course, to generate hatred of Trump, to say that, you've got to vote for him or it's, the end of the world. Well, now we have Biden as a president. The world does seem to be ending. Our country is a dumpster fire. We're really facing the crisis, certainly of our lifetimes. And so they can't really make that argument. I mean, what's the worst that happens? You vote for Trump and your life's back like it was between 2016 and 2019, and everything's better. Okay.
Yeah. Gosh. Okay, let's go back to Michael Cohen, because it's big in the news right now. Like you said, he went to jail for lying and perjuring himself. He's now been caught trying to bully multiple clients. We find out that he was secretly recording Donald Trump and then using those tapes, client attorney privilege, against Trump in order to prove that payments were being extracted from Trump. It appears Trump didn't know what these payments were for. He believed that they were legitimate legal fees. But a couple of big things that came out for me, Drew, was it looks like Stormy Daniel and Michael Cohen have been colluding together in order to extract money. But in respects to Michael Cohen's, he became very bitter that he got a small Christmas bonus before Trump became president. Second, he wasn't offered a White House cabinet position. I'm just wondering if all of this bitterness really boils down to Michael Cohen's being mad about not getting money and not getting a job in the Trump White House.
Yeah, look, Michael Cohen's a stupid person. You know, for example, he's somebody who had financial debt and faced financial ruin because he bought a bunch of taxi medallions as Uber was coming up. So this is somebody, of course, who should serve no purpose in an administration because the moron spent a fortune buying up taxi medallions as Uber was happening, as these other services were happening. So, of course, those taxi medallions weren't worth very much when people had alternative transportation options. There was no longer a monopoly. So this is who Michael Cohen is, by the way. But you're right. The fact that he's sitting there recording Donald Trump, it looks like this was extortion, actually, between Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen. And, of course, in some ways, all of that's just extra because it is irrelevant in terms of this case, because this case is a joke anyway. There is no crime here. No matter how they try and spin this. And so, you know, this jury is basically being asked to vote on whether they like Trump or they don't like Trump, because I mean, it's so complex and yet not complex at all. And I just am stunned. I mean, I think the American people, it seems to be based on polling and everything else, the Democrats can't believe this is backfiring, that they know what a crock this is. I mean, it's such a joke. I mean, honestly, it's hard, Stephen, to even explain the Stormy Daniels, this situation in some ways, because it's like trying to explain to somebody that the sky is actually, in fact, blue. It's so simple. It's like, no, there's no crime.
Yeah. Well, there might actually be a crime. It came out that Alvin Braggs and his team deleted 3 pages worth of phone calls between Stormy Daniel and Michael Cohen. Now, why would the opposite party destroy evidence if it didn't make Donald Trump look guilty? Well, because it didn't help their case, so they had to destroy evidence. That also came out in the hearing. So will anything happen? Not likely. But at least, you know, you and I know, and we just get to add one more brick to the wall. Okay, another question that I wanted to talk through with you. Joe Biden has been telling Americans that inflation is because of Donald Trump and the Federal Reserve. The Fed Bank finally responded to Biden and said, actually, it's the 3 trillion plus bills that you passed and pumped money into the market and oil prices that are making inflation difficult for us. Why do you think Biden lies so much about this and then has the audacity to tell people to suck it up because you have the money?
Yeah, well, he's not a good politician. That goes back to 2020 as well. You know, I thought it was funny when Barack Obama was advising. It was revealed that Barack Obama was advising his 2024 campaign. I thought, well, hey, Joe Biden's the most popular president in American history. He should be giving Barack Obama advice, right? 81 million votes. But anyway, look, I mean, when you're a sociopath and a pathological liar who not just lies about policy, but lies about your entire history, I mean, in that sense, what are you going to do? I mean, your whole life, there is no distinguishing between truth and deceit anymore, truth and lies. I mean, but in terms of his response to everything, it's just a typical elitist attitude. Now, this transcends political party here, because in America right now, what people are waking up to you've got plenty of Republicans who suck. You've got a deep state. You've got a uniparty for sure that are betraying the American people. What we're up against is a group of elites in Washington, D.C. who believe that the American citizen is servant and those in government are master, which of course is a reversal of what the Constitution says. We, the people, are master, and those in government are our servants. And the problem in Washington, D.C., by the way, is that when our representatives go to Washington, D.C., they're supposed to represent us, but they represent the government. They represent the uniparty. So that's what's happening here. And so Joe Biden is one of those people who believes himself above the American people. He has no sympathy or empathy for the American people because he's never really lived amongst the American people. He's never been one of us. It's a class system here, right? You have government officials who believe like they serve in, King Louis's court or, some king's court. And they have nothing in common with us. They don't care about us. They just meet every day and think about how to rip us off, how to steal more of our money, how to abuse us. And it's really, really sick. But that's another reason that Joe Biden has no chance of winning re-election in 2024, because if you look at Donald Trump, right, who's actually a billionaire, who on paper should have nothing in common with the average American citizen, right? I mean, this is somebody who's in the billionaire class. How can this person that has a private jet, who can do whatever he wants with his money, who has these amazing homes, how can he relate to the American people? And yet what you see with Donald Trump is that he can relate to anyone. He goes to the bodega, people love him. He goes to McDonald's, he goes to get pizza, and he can relate to the average American worker. And that's why we see this big shift of blue collar workers, the working class, if you will, that the Democrats have abandoned, that they still lie and say they're protecting. They're all moving to Trump. There's something about Trump that's special. Joe Biden is a typical elitist politician, no matter how they spin it, no matter how much propaganda they put out there to convince you otherwise. And he despises the American citizen. He can't relate to anyone.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I was just sitting here thinking, like, imagine being Bill Clinton or Barack Obama, and you're like, this guy got more votes than me? Like, he's literally like a turd, like I would be so mad, like, especially like Barack Obama. I'd be like, my vice president that is known for effing things up, like, can barely put two sentences together, can't find his way off a stage. This guy got more votes than me. He's the most popularly elected official in American history. But if we're learning anything from Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and especially Georgia, Joe Biden got more ballots than Donald Trump. Maybe not more votes. Okay, last thing, and I know that your book is the thing that helps people understand this, but Jen Circleback Psaki, the former White House press secretary, she has in her book that Biden was not offensive to Gold Star families, that as their children's dead bodies were coming off of the airplane from Afghanistan, that he didn't check his watch multiple times. It's on camera, it's on video, it's all over the internet. Why would she try to lie to the American people about something that is so well documented?
Well, she is a propagandist, and she exists to defend the regime. And I knew that books like this were going to come out. One already got canceled, but yeah, Jen Psaki comes out. They're trying to rewrite history because that's all the Democrats can do. That's what Karine Jean-Pierre does every time she stands up at their podium. She tries to rewrite history and convince the American people to abandon reality, what they've experienced with their own eyes and ears, and to supplant that with some absurd notion that they're hearing from Karine Jean-Pierre or some other propagandist mouth, Joe Scarborough, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, I mean, of course she puts that in there to try and lie, because all of these things in the aggregate damage Joe Biden, right? So this is why, for example, Joe Biden, a year after the fact, decided he was going to go and visit East Palestine, Ohio, because he wanted to remove a weapon that the Republicans and Trump had against him, because he did. So they can say, oh, look, he did visit East Palestine, see? And that's where the talking point will end. And so, I mean, I love it because, I mean, in my book, I tell things exactly how they are. I also wrote a book, Jen Psaki, and in my book, reality is in there, not these cover-ups for the Biden administration. It's a chronicling of these historic failures. It's just devastating for him and his regime. And nobody can read my book and support this party, support this president. But shows like yours, others out there, people actually get the media. They get actual truth now, whereas they've lost their control over the narrative, and that's what has them scrambling, losing control of the narrative, and they're losing control of the narrative now in New York with that case as well.
Yeah. Well, just this week, I found out that several big influencers are actually being paid by the Biden reelection campaign. And so people think that they're getting an honest opinion, and they're not. I don't talk about RFK Jr. or Biden or Trump because somebody is paying me to say those things. Just like I didn't take $30,000 when Pfizer asked me to try to convince my community to get a shot that I didn't believe in. So this kind of crap goes on all the time behind the scenes. But truth is a great disinfectant for all of these infections all over the country. In our last few minutes, just tell my audience about America's Last Stand, and then I'll put a link to it down below.
Well, sure. Look, I mean, this book I wrote to be instrumental in doing a couple of things. One is we are living in the present. I think that goes without saying. And so it can be difficult when you're actually living through history to understand the gravity of the situation you're in. So perspective is important. And so I give that to people in the book. We need to have a conversation leading up to November and even after about just how serious this election is, what it means for the future of this country and our children. And so that's part of it, getting people to understand that. And the other thing is to, of course, set the record straight, addressing, things like climate change, how that's an existential threat, the climate agenda to us, exposing the sordid history of the Democrat Party, the fact that they have never, I try and help people understand what the Democrat Party is doing today is consistent with what they've done in the past, going after blacks, for example, with welfare. They're not champions of blacks, and they never have been. But it's all about narrative spin to try and obviously win elections for themselves. And so, but, at the end of it, it's a call, I mean, we are the patriots of 2024. I call all of us in this book. And look, it's our duty and responsibility right now to stand up and defend this country. Our ancestors have done it, and we can do it too. So, we've got to find a balance. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, it's even scary what's happening right now. But, we're Americans. We have patriotism in our DNA. We can get through this. We will get through this. We just have to have a tough mentality, and we have to be more active in this country's future. We can't just sit and watch Netflix and expect that someone else is going to save the country. We actually have to be, participants in that. And so at the end of the day, it's an optimistic message. It's a message that gives people the information they need and the courage they need to stand up in 2024.
Oh, that's awesome. I appreciate you coming on today and going through this stuff. I'm going to leave a link down below. If people want to follow you online, what's the best way to do that?
Well, the best is to subscribe to my Substack, drewallen.substack.com. And I'll keep everybody informed there. But, Stephen, I just got to say again, dude, I mean, you really are a patriot. What you're doing is amazing. And, you're doing so much with the blessings that you have of this really rich, wonderful audience that listens to you, and they do it for a good reason.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And thank you again for coming on. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too.